Have you ever wondered why your body reacts before you've even had a chance to think? No decision, no choice. Just your jaw clenches, or you go completely blank, or you start apologizing for something that wasn't your fault. There are 5 distinct responses your nervous system runs when it detects a threat, and which one you default to tells you something important about what you've been through. Fight. You're in a conversation that starts to feel like a threat. Maybe someone dismisses you. Maybe they raise their voice. And suddenly you're not just disagreeing anymore, you're burning. Your jaw tightens. Your words come out sharper than you intended. You're not angry. You're terrified. And anger is the only armor your body knows how to grab in time. What's happening is your sympathetic nervous system flooding your bloodstream with adrenaline and norepinephrine, the 2 chemicals that prime your muscles for confrontation. Frontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking and impulse control, is getting overridden. The amygdala, your brain's threat detector, has pulled the emergency brake on logic and handed control to instinct. The painful part is that fight doesn't always look like rage. Sometimes it looks like sarcasm, sometimes it looks like control. Sometimes it looks like you're picking an argument about something completely unrelated, because the real threat, the real fear, is something you can't name out loud yet. Research shows that people who default to fight responses often grew up in environments where aggression was the only form of power available to them. Your anger isn't irrational, it was the most rational option you had. Flight. You feel it before you understand it. A conversation gets heavy and you find yourself checking your phone. A relationship gets complicated and suddenly you're very, very busy. You don't leave dramatically, you just drift. You find reasons, find distance. And somewhere underneath all of it, you know you're running, but the running feels so much safer than whatever you'd have to face if you stayed. Flight activates the same adrenaline cascade as fight, but instead of mobilizing aggression, your brain is mobilizing escape. Your heart rate increases, your blood is redirected toward your legs, and your mind starts scanning for exits: physical, emotional, conversational. The threat feels real even when, by any objective measure, it isn't. Here's what makes flight particularly exhausting. You can spend your whole life managing distance from things that feel dangerous, building elaborate systems of avoidance, and never once realize you're doing it. It just looks like being busy, being independent, being not ready. Flight keeps you safe from the thing in front of you. It doesn't keep you safe from the fact that wherever you run, your nervous system comes with you. Freeze. Someone says something that hits wrong, or asks you something you weren't prepared for, or the situation tips past the edge of what you can process, and you go completely still. Not calm still. There's a difference. Your mind goes quiet in the worst possible way. You can't speak. You can't move. You're present, but you're not there. Freeze is what happens when both fight and flight are assessed by your nervous system as impossible. Your dorsal vagal complex, a part of your autonomic nervous system, takes over and applies the brakes on everything. Heart rate drops, muscles go slack. Cognitive processing slows to almost nothing. This is an ancient survival response. Prey animals do it. Your body does it too. The cruelest part of freeze is the shame that follows it. You couldn't speak up. You couldn't leave. Just stood there. And afterward, your mind replays it on a loop, asking why you didn't do something, not understanding that doing nothing was exactly what your brain calculated as survival. Freeze isn't weakness. It's what happens when your threat response runs out of options. Fawn. Someone is upset. The tension in the room shifts, and immediately, you're already moving to fix it. You agree with something you don't believe. You apologize for something that wasn't your fault. You make yourself smaller, softer, easier. Not because you want to. Because somewhere in your nervous system, there is a very old message that says, if they're unhappy, you are not safe. Fawn, sometimes called the people-pleasing response, was first named by trauma therapist Pete Walker, and it's particularly common in people who grew up around unpredictable or emotionally volatile caregivers. When fighting back was dangerous and leaving wasn't an option, the only survival strategy left was to become whatever the other person needed you to be. What makes fawn so difficult to recognize is that it looks like kindness. It looks like being easy to be around. It looks like emotional intelligence, but underneath, there's a constant, exhausting calculation running, monitoring other people's moods, adjusting your behavior, working to prevent conflict before it can start. You're not being kind. You're managing a threat, and your body learned that distinction very, very early. Dissociation. You're there, you can see what's happening, you can hear voices, but it feels like you're watching yourself from slightly outside your own body, or the room goes flat and unreal, or time just skips, you lose minutes, sometimes more. The world keeps moving and you're present but not connected to any of it, like watching your own life play on a screen with the volume turned down. Dissociation is your brain's most extreme form of protection. When a threat is overwhelming, when fight, flight, freeze, and fawn are all insufficient, the brain does something remarkable and disturbing. It disconnects conscious experience from the body. The prefrontal cortex and limbic system partially decouple. Perception continues, but emotional registration slows or stops. You experience events without fully registering them. For people who've experienced repeated or prolonged trauma, dissociation can become the default, not just during crisis, but in ordinary moments. Conversations, relationships, quiet afternoons. Your brain learned that presence was dangerous, so it taught itself to be somewhere else. Dissociation isn't spacing out. It's your mind evacuating the building while your body stays inside. Hypervigilance. You walk into a restaurant, and before you sit down, you've already mapped the exits. Someone goes quiet in a conversation, and you're already trying to figure out what you did wrong. A notification appears on your phone, and your stomach drops before you've even read it. You're not paranoid, you're scanning. Constantly, automatically, without rest. Hypervigilance is the nervous system stuck in a state of chronic threat assessment. The amygdala, which processes danger signals, becomes sensitized through repeated stress or trauma, meaning it fires faster and at lower thresholds than it should. Your brain has learned that danger can come from anywhere, so it monitors everything. The exhausting irony is that this constant vigilance often goes completely unnoticed by the people around you. From the outside, you seem attentive, perceptive, maybe a little intense. From the inside, you are never ever fully off. Keen, there is no full rest. There is only lighter versions of alert. Hypervigilance was built for a specific environment. The problem is that it doesn't know how to stop running when that environment is gone. Emotional numbness. You know you should feel something. A loss, a moment, a piece of news that would make most people stop. And you do stop, but there's nothing there. Not sadness, not grief, not even relief. Just a quiet, flat space where the feeling should be. You wait for it. It doesn't come. And then you wonder if something is wrong with you, if you're broken in some way that the people around you aren't. Emotional numbness is a form of dissociation specifically, the suppression of effective response as a protective mechanism when emotions have historically been overwhelming, dangerous to express, or consistently unmet. The brain learns to dampen them at the source, cortex, which helps integrate emotion and cognition, essentially turns down the volume on emotional signals before they reach full conscious experience. What you experience as numbness isn't the absence of feeling, it's feeling that never made it past your own defenses. The quietest version of trauma doesn't scream. It just goes silent and takes pieces of you with it. Trauma bonding. You know something is wrong. You can see it clearly from the outside, but every time there's a moment of warmth from this person, a small kindness, a moment of the version of them you love, you feel relief so powerful it almost hurts. And you stay. Not because you don't see what's happening, keen, but because the relief feels like proof that it can be different. Trauma bonding is a neurological process driven by intermittent reinforcement, the unpredictable alternation between threat and reward. When danger and comfort come from the same source, your brain's dopamine system becomes locked onto that person in an almost addictive pattern. Each return to safety after threat registers as a reward hit more powerful, not less, for having been withheld. This is why logic doesn't fix it. People on the outside say, just leave, and don't understand why that sentence means nothing. It's not weakness. It's not stupidity. It's a nervous system that has been conditioned to find safety inside the very thing that threatens it. Trauma bonding is what happens when your attachment system and your threat response get tangled around the same person. And untangling them is one of the hardest things a nervous system can do. But every response in this video comes from the same place, a nervous system that learned what the world was like before you were old enough to question it. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, dissociation, none of them are personality traits. 10 of them are who you are. They're all answers to questions your body was asked a long time ago, in environments where they were the right answers. The hard part isn't understanding them, keen. The hard part is that understanding them doesn't automatically make them stop. Your brain doesn't update its threat maps just because you've named them. That takes something slower and harder and more uncomfortable than a video can give you. But there's something that shifts when you stop asking, "Why am I like this?" and start asking, "What was this protecting me from?" The response doesn't disappear, but it stops feeling like a flaw. It starts feeling like evidence that at some point, some version of you was trying very hard to survive. And it worked. You're still here. That's not nothing.